The Cotic FlareMAX is a unique bike in this year's test, as it's the only one which is actually made of steel. The FlareMAX sits in a family of 4 full suspension bikes from the Sheffield-based bike manufacturer. The FlareMAX has 120mm of travel and is compatible with 29-inch and 650B plus wheels. Cotic will sell you their frames individually or as part of a number of different build kits. Cotic sent us the silver build kit level for the 29-inch version of the FlareMAX. This would usually come in at £2,699, but thanks to Cotic's model of allowing you to customise the spec, ours ended up coming in at £3,150, thanks to a few choice upgrades to make it a little bit more competitive. Versatility is definitely a big benefit of Cotic's frame sets. While it's obviously designed around 29-inch and plus wheels, in 29 format we could fit up to 2.5-inch tyres in the back of the frame, which is pretty cool. The front of the frame is built out of Reynolds 853 steel, which makes it unique in this year's test. The suspension linkages at the back are made of alloy. The suspension runs around their drop-link suspension system. This is effectively a linkage-driven single pivot system, and it works pretty well, as you'd expect from what is actually quite a popular suspension system on the market. While many of the bikes in this year's test came with suspension from Fox and RockShox, Cotic spec'd us a bike with the X-Fusion McQueen HLR rough cut fork and a Cane Creek double barrel inline air shock at the back. Kind of unique in this year's test, and what it really highlighted was just how capable the X-Fusion fork really is. The standard silver build kit comes with an X-Fusion McQueen RL2 fork. However, for £100 extra, you can get the rough cut damper put into this fork, and this is an upgrade that we would definitely recommend doing from new. While the McQueen fork is a good, decent 34mm stanchion fork, adding that rough cut damper really transforms it into a really capable fork, and one which you wouldn't necessarily expect. It's definitely an unsung hero of the fork world. From stock, the frame also comes with an X-Fusion O2 RCX shock. We got ours upgraded to the Cane Creek DB inline. This is a shock which perhaps hasn't got the best reputation for reliability. However, we understand that Cane Creek have started to address these problems, and during testing we didn't have any reliability issues. Our bike came with a Shimano SLX 1x11 group set with an 11-42 cassette. If you want a little bit more range, then you could go for the XT cassette with the 11-46 tooth option. This is an extra £45, and if you are looking for those steeper, longer climbs on bigger hills, then this might not be a bad shout. Our bike also came with the Raceface Effect crankset, which is one of our favourites on the market. Bringing the whole thing to a stop was a pair of Shimano Dior brakes. In the past we've had some issues with varying bike points on the SLX, XT and XTR models, so we've always been happy to see a pair of Shimano Dior brakes on there, and so we had no complaints. Plenty of power, plenty of modulation, all good really. Our bike came with a set of wheels based around Dior hubs and WTB I-25 rims. These have an internal width of 25mm and give a really nice volume to the WTB Vigilante and Trail Boss tyres. The wheels themselves are boost width, which gives extra stiffness, and they came tubeless setup from the off. This was an optional upgrade, and for 50 quid it's probably worth doing, as the stock tyres are Continental Trail Kings and they're not particularly good. The rest of the finishing kit on our bike generally came from Raceface, and that included the turbine seat post, which is stealth-rooted dropper. This was a £100 upgrade over the X-Fusion one, which would have been in there originally. But again, it's quite a nice little upgrade to have.
If you approach your bike buying purely from kind of a spec checking, weight checking, looking at the carbon fibre versus the alloy point of view, you might be surprised to see that Cotic's FlareMAX bike is so high up in the mix. So what is a steel-framed bike with what looks like a curious mix of suspension to the uninitiated doing so high up in our rankings? That's because there's way more to being a good bike than just looking good on a spec sheet. And when a bike loves to get its bars slung as low through corners and get the dirt sideways as much as the Cotic, it's always going to find a place in our hearts and on our scoreboards. Obviously the key part of this bike is the chassis. It's Reynolds 853 for the main tubes. That's a very well storied heat strengthening tube set developed by a UK company, Reynolds, who are one of the masters of steel frame building. SciAt Cotic has also worked with Reynolds to produce his own tube set. It's got a oval form top tube, and there's some other features in there, such as a really big diameter seat post, which means the whole bike stays together really, really tightly when you're throwing it hard. While it's a difficult thing to pin down, it's not a kind of cold, harsh stiffness either. It's a warm feeling bike, and what that translates to is even though our bike came spec'd with a fast rolling, harder compound tyre, It always felt like a much grippier, stickier rubber underneath us. Again, the X-Fusion MacGyver fork probably isn't something that's going to pop up on a lot of radars when it comes to really aspirational suspension equipment. Truth is though, X-Fusion have been working on their rough cut damper for a while now. It's directly derived from their downhill forks, and that's how it feels on the trail. It's a stiff chassis, but again, it's the suspension action that really shines. Flattering the tyres, flattering the grip that the Cotic's already giving you, and you can get those big race face bars right down onto the floor. Every time you attack a corner, you're throwing it in hard and just searching for the exit earlier, cutting the apex finer. It's a proper ripper, it's an absolute blast. Out back, the inline shock's an upgrade on this bike, but it just gives you all the suspension tuning features you could possibly want. And we flick the big gold climb switch, and it's an easy way to overcome the extra weight of a steel bike. While we've come out to Spain with the bike rigged with 29er wheels, it'll also take 27.5 Plus, which opens up even more traction, even more fun, and even more dirty lead angles when it comes to corners. Ultimately, the Cotic is here because it's a real enthusiast bike. It really rewards an aggressive rider who's keen to exploit that little extra bit of micro traction that you get from the slight deflection in the steel frame. It's a bike for someone who wants to make most of all the adjustability of that rear shock. It's a bike for someone who really knows what they're doing with a high and low speed compression circuit on a fork. It's maybe not a bike that's best suited to someone who's fairly new to mountain biking, but if you know your routes, you know your trails, and you know how to get the best out of a bike, this bike is definitely going to get the best out of you. It's a bike we've always enjoyed riding throughout testing, and it's one that we'll always look forward to riding every opportunity we get.
If you want a bike from one of the big international brands, then the Cotic probably isn't one of those. However, if you are looking for something a little bit more unique, something you probably won't see out on the trail all that often, the FlareMAX is a great option. It's not the lightest bike in the world, but there's a great spec list on there, especially considering that you can tweak it to your needs. It's definitely a bike that rewards a bit of time and effort put into setting the suspension up, especially if you have upgraded the shock and the fork. With a heritage in building bikes out of steel, it's great to see that Cotic prove that you don't need the latest whiz-bang technology in order to get a bike that can go down the trail at absolute warp speed. And for that, we love this bike.